following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Hi, everybody. This is former WWE superstar Al Snow.
C.W. Anderson.
Sean Oliver.
My name is Eugene.
And you are watching the Insider's Edge podcast.
Now get on the train.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia in Fury. So great to be with you all once again, and I am chuffed. I am ecstatic. Here tonight, I get the opportunity to interview former All Japan, All Asia Tag Team Champion, co-winner of the Stan Hansen Cup, and of course, former World Wrestling Council television and Puerto Rican heavyweight champion. He is the one, the only, Jungle Jim Steele. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you doing? Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem, sir. And the first question, Jim, on every episode is, when you were a young man, how did you become a wrestling fan before you got in the business?
So that's actually kind of funny and bizarre because I was never a wrestling fan, actually.
Yeah.
I know most wrestlers, they were fans growing up. And I just never was. I got into it by some friends of mine, and I'm here in Tampa, Florida, and I'm from Chicago, but I grew up down here since I was 5. I have some friends of mine. I was bouncing at the time at a strip club, 2001 Odyssey, and I had some friends of mine that were into it, and they would ask me, hey, you should come down with us and try this out, wrestling. And because I was working out a lot at the time. And it took some convincing, I guess, before I finally did. I would just blow it off and like, yeah, I don't know, one of these days I'll come down and try it out with you. But they kept asking, and I went down there and tried it out, and I guess I liked it. But I had a big disadvantage because most wrestlers, people getting into it, knew a little bit about wrestling. I did not. So at that point, I started watching a lot of wrestling and trying to learn holds, psychology of it. But yeah, so I was never a big fan growing up.
Fair enough. The last few guests actually said themselves they weren't fans growing up as well. They just somehow found their way in this crazy business.
Right.
So I believe in my research you train with Steve Kern and Rob Slinker.
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about your experience? Coming in, not being a wrestling fan, but coming in and learning from these two, and just the experience with them.
It was a good experience. They had a warehouse down by the boat docks, South Tampa. I'm trying to remember the actual area, but it was just like a way off hidden area, and they just had this ring in there, and we would, the first thing would be to learn to take bumps, which was very unorthodox or unintuitive because you don't want to just let yourself fall back. It's just so that was a big hurdle trying to get over that. And again, I just had a disadvantage because I wasn't aware of the holds, and so I was like learning on the go, which most kids that were fans were probably having wrestling matches in their living room, jumping off the couch and stuff like that. So, it was a good learning experience for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is funny that you bring that up because, when you're a fan growing up and you're mucking around with your siblings in your lounge room or whatever, you try to do all the little holds and stuff. Obviously, you don't get the laws of how they work properly, but you kind of understand it in a way. So that's an interesting perspective to come at it through. So after this training, I believe you start working in Florida in the ICWA in October of 91, and also the USWA in early 1992. I thought that was interesting in my research, seeing that you work with the likes of Coco Beware and the legendary Dr. Tom Pritchard. Please tell me about your early days in the business and what lessons you may have learned during that time.
So, what was the place? What was the name that you mentioned here in Florida? ICWA, was that it?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm assuming that was probably at the Sportatorium in Tampa. I don't remember what street it was off, but I mean that's where I had like the my first matches and beginning matches.
Yeah.
And again, so I think I was watching a lot of there was an organization in Texas that was maybe Dallas, Texas. I can't.
World Class Championship Wrestling.
Global, is that what you said?
I said world class, but do you mean global?
Oh, I think it might have been global at the time. I don't know.
Okay.
So I remember watching that, and of course WWF. I think it was still called WWF at the time. And so my first match at the Sportatorium was very different from what I was viewing on TV. I was, I guess in my mind, I was expecting something larger and more extravagant. And here you are at the Sportatorium, which was a famous building. A lot of superstars, Hulk Hogan and a lot of Ric Flair, they all went through there, I guess. But so my impression was, I don't even know how, maybe 150 people would have been packed, maybe. And it was small, and I was just like, damn, this is professional wrestling. What the hell did I get myself into?
Yeah.
And then you said USWA, I believe, right? Memphis,
Correct.
Tennessee.
Yes.
So that was my first bigger organization, and it was still a small organization, I guess, at the time. But I guess back in the day, it was one of the biggest, individual territories. But so that was my first experience in a larger venue with like ring music, with actual a little bit of a distance to get to the ring.
Yeah.
And because I remember being in the ring, and I think my first match there was actually Dr. Tom Pritchard. He came out to Wanted Dead or Alive, right? And and he was a fan favorite. I'm just a nobody starting out over there. And I remember when this music came on, and everybody stood up and was like, yeah, I was getting a little bit of goosebumps going, damn, this is pretty cool, man. So it went from the Sportatorium, which maybe held, 100, 150 people packed, to the Memphis Coliseum, which it wasn't actually that packed that night. I think it was a Monday night, but it was just the large arena and just more fans. And so that was like my jump to the, wow, could be kind of cool kind of experience. So yeah, that was two different early experiences.
Very cool, very cool. And as you're explaining it, I could just visualize what it would have felt like and looked like in my head. So I really enjoyed that. And I know that in 1993, you do some training at the WCW Power Plant. Can you tell me about how this came about? Did you see an opportunity? Some people see an advert on television sometimes and call the number. Tell me about that experience. That I know in the early 90s, the power plant was a little different to the pristine power plant that they would have in the late 90s.
Yeah, actually, I think my first time up there was 92, and it I was with WCW from 92 to 94. And I had gone up there as a jobber, I guess, right? I don't know if they still do that. But back in the day, they did their TV tapings at Center Stage in Atlanta. And the stars would have their just basically their squash matches. And I went up there for that. I had some friends that were going up there and said, yeah, come on, we'll take a road trip, make a couple $100, however much it was. And so I went up there, and I remember I was like one of the bigger guys up there, the bigger jobber guys. And they actually stuck me with, and this was when Van Vader was there.
Yeah.
And Van Vader was usually getting like two squash guys at a time.
Yeah.
And so they gave me, or they put me with Van Vader. And so that was my first experience up there. And I can remember thinking, because Leon, he was a nice guy, right? He talking to me in the back. Hey, brother, we're going to do this. Okay, this, that. I'm like, okay. When I get out there, he's a different fucking guy. And I'm like thinking to myself, what the fuck is this? Hey, dude, we were just talking in the back just a few minutes ago, man. Take it easy. And I remember he dropped me right in my fucking neck too.
Oh, shit.
Just planted me, which I guess got a big pop out of the back, because, you know, if you get a pop from the boys in the back, it must have looked pretty good or brutal out there. Luckily, I had a pretty big neck, and I was okay. But the way that, and I'd like to see that actual footage, but I can't find it anywhere. But I would like to see that and see what it looked like. But so after that, I think Dusty called me in the back. I think he might have been booking up there at the time or something. And I don't know, he just liked the way I looked. So he called me in the back and started talking to me and asked me what I was doing right now. And I'm like, nothing really. I'm just bouncing at this club in Tampa. So he said, all right, well, I'll get in touch with you. And I don't know, however much time later, he called me, he brought me up, and I started at the power plant.
Awesome. And I'll tell you this, Jim. So that match was on July 27th, 1992.
Oh, July what?
July 27th.
The match I'm talking about with Van Vader?
Yeah.
Now I have to write this down. So like July 27th. What was it?
1992.
92,
but
okay.
I'll tell you what, I have access to pretty much every episode of WCW Saturday Night that has ever been recorded. I can upload that match for you. I will find it and I'll upload it.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I never saw that. I'd like to see that. That'd be cool.
Excellent.
Probably going to make me cringe, I'm sure.
I'm just leaving a note for myself there to upload that match so he can check it out for the first time in a long time.
First time ever.
So the next question, the power plant, you go down there to the power plant. What's that experience like? I mean, I know they were pretty, I don't know if Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker was there at that point, but I know he's a tough man.
Fucking hell, man. They would make us do fucking Hindu squats until we puked. And I never puked, but I hung right with them. But I remember that after one of my first days there, I worked out hard. I always worked out pretty hard in the gym. Dude, I never got my glutes, hams, quads as sore as I did than doing like I don't even know, 1,000 Hindu squats. And he would call them bucket squats because we all had a big bucket. I don't know, I guess you could imagine like a 5-gallon industrial sized bucket that they deliver, I don't know, pickles or whatever in for restaurants. We'd have one of those buckets, maybe a little bit lower, and we'd have to squat and hit our butt on the bucket each time. My ass and glutes and quads and everything were so sore. It literally took me probably 5 minutes just when I was at home later the next day. You always get sore on quads like 2 days later. It literally took me about 5 minutes just to sit down on the toilet because my quads were so blown up and sore. I was like, what the hell happened? So yeah, he was always just driving you into the ground, trying to run guys off or whatever, probably. But that's my first vivid memory of that place.
I love it. I love anytime I know somebody was there, I have to get their side of the story. And generally it's the same for everybody. Even ex-Marines and pro football players, etc. They would tap out within the first few hours. So
it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just a different type of muscle fatigue and attacking you. You can train at whatever else and then go try something else, whether it's swimming or badminton or tennis, and you're going to be blown up because you're working different muscles and different groups, and you're not familiar with it.
Incredible. So I wanted to ask you this. I couldn't find the answer in my research. So who came up with the Jungle Jim Steele character, or the presentation?
I'm trying to, I don't know if it was like a group effort. It might have been Dusty. I think that probably came up with that. Yeah.
Right.
And
I thought
they actually tried to have me at center stage. They tried to have me swing in to the ring from a rope, and like wrapped vines or vines around it.
Yeah.
But it couldn't be done because they wanted me to do it from, I don't know, somewhere in the stands, right? Grab onto the rope and swing into the ring, which would have been a very cool entrance, right?
Yeah.
But the only problem is, if you were up in the stands a little bit and you got this rope that's, I don't know where they attached it from, in the ceiling, somewhere above or near the ring. And the ring is whatever, however many feet off the ground, right? You got the ring and then the ropes.
Yeah.
So, and if you're up into the stands holding this rope and you try to swing down, you're not going to be able to clear that. You're not going to be able to clear it and get into the ring or even anywhere on the ring. I mean, it just, by the time the pendulum swung and brought, where you would be holding on to the rope next to the ring, you would have smashed right into the actual ring itself, somewhere down below. So it couldn't be done. We tried to figure it out multiple ways. It just wouldn't work.
That's incredible. That is actually an incredible idea, but sometimes logistics of things won't work out. But if anyone can portray a Tarzan-esque character, you are certainly somebody that looked the part, the hair, the body chiseled out of stone. So this certainly stands out. And I want to bring up your first victory in WCW. The 21st of September, 1993, you take on the Gambler at the Crystal Chandelier in Kennesaw, Georgia.
I don't even know where you found all that information at. Damn, yeah, you're right about that. Okay, yep.
I do my research, bro. I watched a couple of matches.
Fun bar too.
I watched a couple of matches that you've worked with the Gambler, who's obviously somebody who, an unsung hero in the wrestling business, makes everyone he works with look good. How did you find working with him? And, you must be excited, this new character you're on, you're working in WCW now, one of the big companies, as Jungle Jim Steele.
Yeah, Gambler was cool, man. I don't. Do you have a way? Or have you interviewed him by chance? Or I have no. I haven't heard his name in forever. But yeah, he was a good guy. He was very experienced. So, and I was totally green. Yeah, he was great. He could make anybody look great. I don't recall the match specifically, but I remember Gambler for sure. And we, at the power plant or anywhere, it was just easy following a match that he would put together. And my problem actually with WCW probably was just being too green at the time that they gave me that push. Like, had I gotten that push with them, I don't know, years later, because I was in WCW from 92 to 94. And then I left and went to Japan. And I probably, I was never really good on the mic, but I got better when I was in Puerto Rico because we did it a lot. And then my psychology came together. So had I got that push in WCW, maybe in like 96 or something, after I had been wrestling and working for a little while, who knows what would have happened. But I was just the drizzle of shits. I was horrible. I couldn't even. I remember doing an interview or like a live ringside interview at Center Stage, and it might have been that same night that I was trying to swing in on the rope. And I remember, I think Ted Turner and Jane Fonda might have been in the arena ringside also. I was so freaking nervous. I had, something I was supposed to say. I was just like stuttering. I couldn't get it out. It was horrible. So yeah, I totally flopped that. And again, hindsight's 2020, but if I had that opportunity in 96, who knows what would have happened? It would have been a lot better, but it came when it did. I wasn't ready. And
absolutely, and I'm ready to dig even more deeper into all of this. And as far as the Gambler's concerned, I have somehow been able to make contact with his son via Twitter.
Yeah.
I just got to keep chipping away at him to convince his dad to come on the show, because he's one of those mysteries of the business. Nobody knows what's going on with him for the last 20 odd years. So I'll do my best.
So does his son wrestle?
No, his son does some. Sorry, what's that?
No, I said you were just reaching out, trying to get a hold of him, and somehow you were able to get a hold of his son, but could not get okay.
I'll keep chipping away. But the next question I wanted to ask you, when you're in WCW early on, who do you become tight with backstage? Who are like some people that you say you became friends with during those days?
Oh shit. I don't know. Maybe it's the guys that are at the power plant, or maybe I don't know. I don't know if I ever became tight with any of them. But I knew a lot of them from being in Florida and coming from Florida. And there was a lot of guys that were up there from Florida. Dennis Knight. I can't remember what his wrestling gimmick was.
Tex Lassinger.
Yes, that's it. And the building where I lived at, I think it was called La Park at the time. It was an apartment complex that was right next to or very near to Sting's gym. Main Event, I think was the name of the event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever super tight with any of them, but they were all living right there. I knew them more like acquaintance, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah, maybe that was my problem. I wasn't much into the backroom politics. Maybe, I don't know.
Fair enough. And speaking of continuing being on the road at live events in your early time in WCW, the 28th of September and the 5th of October against Big Bad John, who many out there may know as Max Muscle. How was Max to work with? Another big guy to work with. His name hasn't been brought up on the show before, so I thought I'd bring him up.
Oh man, he was just like me. He was green and stiff. His working against him was like working against me in a match. I mean, he couldn't move the guy around. He was big and stiff. I mean, I'm sure I was the exact same way. I know I was until probably much, much later. But yeah, he's a good guy. We actually roommated. We were roommates together in the early days of the power plant days, and back then the power plant was in Jonesboro, I think. So we had to drive all the way. We lived up in Marietta. We had to drive through Atlanta, rush hour, both ways, going and coming. So, but yeah, so I mean, I knew him. We were pretty good. We, yeah, I mean,
no worries.
I don't think I actually heard he died.
He did, yeah.
Not too long ago, maybe, I don't know, not too long, 4 or 5 years, 6 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So
may he rest in peace. And the next piece I want to get through here is again just showing off how good my research is. October 12th against Michael Hayes, the 19th teaming with Thunder against Shanghai Pierce and Tex Slazenger, as well as Terry Taylor in a singles match before you finally get back on TV, which is lost to Diamond Dallas Page on the 7th of December. How did you, I mean, you've already alluded to it before about you were feeling, you were green at the time, but how were you feeling at the time as well? You must have been excited. You're getting some wins. You're getting a bit of TV time as well.
And those other matches you talked about, they must have been all at the Chandelier, right?
Yeah, I think they were all a bunch of live events in what's the name of the town? It's Kennesaw, Georgia.
Oh, right. That's where the Chandelier was.
Yeah.
At.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was all a good learning experience. I think it was, them trying to give us some matches to get some ring experience and crowd experience, because you react to the crowd, what's going on. It's like it's live theater, right? And so you try to read the crowd and at certain moments do certain things to get a reaction out of them. And it was nice being back, or not being back out. I guess I really didn't do much first before that and getting on TV. Dallas was always at the power plant training, and I actually probably should have had more I should have actually probably been more like him, because he was hardcore. He was down there, even though he didn't have to be, right? He had a contract, but he just wanted to learn and was down there every opportunity that he could be, just to get better. And he did that. He did,
Absolutely. I mean, he was in his 30s when he started training to be a wrestler, and everyone was like, "You're crazy getting in at this point." But he was adamant, and lo and behold, what was it? Nearly 5 years later, he wins the WZW World Title. So he proved them wrong. So now you get on a bit of a roll on TV. You beat the best right hand in the business, Bob Cook, on January 10th, 1994, followed by a win over Bob Starr at the same tapings. I guess this is like a Saturday night tapings. And another one I wanted to bring up, because I thought you might learn something from this guy, considering, his name in the business. You worked with Rip Rogers on your WCW Pro debut on January 31 in Macon, Georgia. Do you feel, Rip Rogers was someone you could learn from?
Probably, because he's anybody in there, anybody of that group that you just mentioned, were all better than me because they had done it longer than me, and I was green. But I don't know. I don't really remember Rip Rogers that much, except I just thought he was a dick. He probably wasn't. He probably wasn't. It was maybe he just rubbed me wrong, something he said or did. But that was my feeling at the time, and I was like, "Who's this prick?" But he's, you know, he's been in the business longer than me, and he had more experience, so I should have just shut up and listened to him. But you know, somebody rubs you the wrong way, and again, I don't even remember why, but I just kind of have that feeling like that's how I felt about him.
Fair enough. No, I interviewed him last year, and because I had to call him via Skype to his phone, we couldn't do video. It said on the phone call that it was a spam call. So when he answered, he chewed me out saying, if you fuck me on this, I swear to God, I will find you and cut your fucking balls off. And I thought that was tremendous. So I guess that is, you know, he can be a little.
Maybe that's why I had the feeling that I had about him. I don't know.
So, okay, before we get to your pay-per-view debut, you get more wins on Saturday night in Atlanta over Fred Avery and Ronnie Vegas. But your pay-per-view debut, this is pretty big. I mean, you're very young into the business, but I would say, you know, if I were in your position, I'd be like, wow, like all, you know, this time later, all of a sudden now I'm on pay-per-view at Super Bowl 4 in Albany, Georgia, against the Equalizer, who is many know as Dave Sullivan. Can you please take me through your experience performing on this show in front of that big crowd?
Equalizer, Dave, whatever. He was one of the guys that lived in the same building that I did, so I kind of knew him too. And I think I remember I rode down to that show in the car with Booker T that day, I think. And I think I fell asleep the whole way there because I was tired. I don't know. But when I was nervous, of course, it was my first big pay-per-view. And I remember running because my gimmick was a lot Ultimate Warrior-ish, right?
Yeah.
Just like I think the Renegade was Ultimate Warrior-ish, right? WCW's version. And I remember, like, since I was kind of copying that ish a little bit, I remember like running to the ring like full speed, and I think I actually hurdled over the ropes to get into the ring that night. I can't remember. But I was blown up sky high just by the time I got to the ring running. And I was like, how the hell did the Warrior do that, all that? I mean, hell, by the time I got into the ring, I was blown up just from the run down to the ring. And I could just remember in there just, you know, doing everything I had to do. But again, I was so green then that I was just so, I think the nerves causes you to get blown up even more than if you're just relaxed and it was no big deal. Like I wasn't having fun yet there. If once you get more experience, you can go out and have fun, right? Because you're not so nervous to make sure you get everything right or remember everything. And you go out and you have more fun and you're not blown up and you do a much better job. But I was out there trying to remember every little thing and so blown up. I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, all right, I got 5 more moves, 3 more moves, you know, and I was like, holy shit, I was so glad it was over with because I was sucking air. But yeah, man, when you know, later on, when you're more experienced, it's just more fun and easier. So it becomes more fun. But it was, you know, it was a big moment, I guess. Yeah, I just guess I wasn't ready for it yet. And that probably, what year was that?
That's I believe 1994. Yeah.
Okay, so that probably was one of the last ones there, because I know it was 92 to 94.
Yeah, there's not long to go, that's for sure.
And I went to Japan in 94 of like November, I think. So that's probably one of the last.
That's correct, yeah.
One of the last ones that I had there up in WCW.
Yeah, there's a couple more I'm going to mention before we get to my final question about WCW. You get further wins over Brian Armstrong, aka Road Dogg, and the Gambler at the February 22nd, 94 Saturday Night tapings. They're keeping you strong here, bro. And then suddenly in my research, things start to slow down. You don't make another TV appearance until March 19 for Worldwide in your debut on that show against Jimmy Rogers, where you pick up the win. You work Rip Rogers again in a dark match on the 30th at Saturday night. And then you are off until May 7th, 94 against Rick Rude. May 15th, 94, where you face Lord Steven Regal in a television title match, and you lose on these occasions. But then a few months later, August 17th, you take a loss to the Honky Tonk Man on Saturday night, and then you are no longer in WCW. I know that was a lot there for me to throw out there at you, but I just wanted to kind of like put a bow on your WCW run by mentioning all of that. What led you to leaving the company, and you know, how are you feeling when that push all of a sudden came to a halt?
You know, I'm glad you mentioned all that, because I honestly don't even remember wrestling Ric Flair. You said I wrestled Ric Flair?
Rick Rude, sorry.
Oh, Rick Rude. Okay. I remember Rick Rude. Yeah, he was awesome. I loved working with him.
Yeah.
And again, I remember seeing that tape before and just looking at it, cringing, you know, later as a more experienced wrestler, going, that was horrible. But he was an awesome dude. He gave me a lot of stuff and was cool with me, wanted to work with me. And what was the original question?
It was just you know, that this push kind of comes to a halt. You lose your last 3 matches there, and then suddenly you were gone. I just want to know how you were.
Okay, and what, why, or what happened? You know, it's funny. Like, you know, not anymore because I don't wrestle anymore. But back in the day, they would ask me, or like, how come you're not wrestling here or there or whatever? And it's not like that I wouldn't wrestle here or there or wherever they're talking about, but you only get to work there if they actually hire you and they say, yes, come work for us, we'll give you a job. So the same way, why aren't you in particular movie? Well, nobody called and said, hey, we want you to star in this movie. Nobody was, the contract had expired, or there was probably a clause in it. I don't remember exactly, but I didn't get re-signed. And then, so I was like, now what do I do?
Okay, so fair enough.
Usually not by choice. Well, it depends. Some people will actually, you know, they will leave to go to another company for more money or negotiate or whatever. But in my choice, it was just, this guy's done. We tried everything we could. He's green, you know.
Fair enough. Thank you for the insight there. And yeah, I watched that match with Rick Rude earlier tonight, and man, he made you look like $1 million as far as I'm concerned. You had most of the match until right at the end there, where you picked up the win after you reversed the steel trap. But anyway, all of a sudden, All Japan comes calling, and you're essentially connected to the company for the most part for the next 3,660 days, or 10 years and 7 days. Before I get into some All Japan questions, what was it about Japan that was a match made in heaven for Jim Steele?
I don't know. I liked it a lot. Johnny Ace got me in there.
Right.
He was a local Florida guy too, and he was like their, I don't know what you would call him, their American liaison.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
All the boys would talk to him to get over there, unless they had their own connections, and talk to Mr. or Mrs. Baba. And so he's the first. He brought me over, I think, for the tag tournament.
Yeah.
And I think I just came over as Jim Steele.
Yeah.
And then called back and said, "Hey, you want to come back again?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And he says, "Well, we got a mask for you to wear." I believe that's what I came back next as. I'm like, "In a mask? Sure, I'll come back," because I wanted to work, So that was lacrosse, and I don't know. At some point, they had switched me to another character, Wolf Hawkfield.
Yeah.
And then we had a good run with Wolf Hawkfield. They were in cahoots with Sega, I guess.
Of
Sega
course, yeah.
Game Company.
Yeah.
And Wolf Hawkfield was a Sega game character, and they were creating All Japan Wrestling game.
Right, of course, yeah.
And so, of course, with all the All Japan Wrestling stars, Japanese and gaijins. Gaijins just means American wrestler.
Yeah.
That's their foreigner term. And so they, I guess, transitioned me into one of Sega's characters that was Wolf Hawkfield. And that's how I got that name. And then me and Johnny Smith had a good run as the All Asian Tag Team Champions.
Yep.
That's another name that I have no idea what. Johnny Smith. Were you ever able to get a hold of him? I have no idea whatever happened to him. He just kind of fell off from what I know.
Sorry, let me just double check this before I say it. Sorry.
I think I heard something about that, maybe.
Sorry, let me just double check. What's going on with him now? Yeah, no, he's been retired since 2003. He became a police officer.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, police.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway,
Wow. Okay.
I wanted to kind of rein you back in here, Jim, because I've got other questions about your time in All Japan.
I kind of just go off on it. Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay. Trust me. But like I felt like because this is what I found in my research. Like a lot of people remember you as WCW's Jungle Jim Steele, but to be honest, you had a 10-year run in All Japan. You in WCW doesn't define your wrestling career. Your wrestling career is defined by what you did in Japan and what you did in Puerto Rico, as far as I'm concerned. So I feel it's really important for me to do like this nice little somewhat deep dive on your time there, because everyone needs to know, hey, Jungle Jim Steele wasn't just Jungle Jim Steele. He also did all of this stuff for 10 long years in Japan. So you come in for the real World Tag League in 94. You're teaming with Dan Spivey. You work with some crazy names. Dr. Death, Johnny Ace, Kenta Kobashi, Mitsuharu Misawa, Dory Funk Jr., as we mentioned, Johnny Smith, Abdullah the Butcher, Giant Bubba, and Stan Hansen. This must have been a masterclass for you to come in and learn, their style of wrestling. And, you come in being this green guy from WCW. Now you're working with all of these huge names from the business.
Yeah, that's where I actually, I think, learned my craft. Not so much interviews, because they didn't do theatrics and interviews really, except what was in the ring. But that's where I learned a lot of psychology and putting a match together. So, by the time I had been there for a little while, I mean, heck, you're wrestling all the time. and frequently, that helped me craft my my professional wrestling for sure. And then of course with Puerto Rico doing on the mic a little bit more, but yep. So yeah, I had great people to learn from, a wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely. And I kind of feel like it's a much better opportunity to get better and to learn by having matches that go longer than 5 or 6 minutes like you're doing in WCW. Only having these short matches, maybe a bit longer on a live event, but now you're in there with all these very experienced men and you're having these longer matches. So that would definitely be a masterclass. But another interesting little tidbit I found in 1995 was on the 20th of February, you team with a guy by the name of Jeff Barber and defeat Barry Horowitz and the Brooklyn Brawler in a dark match on Monday Night Raw. Is that correct?
Say that again.
February 2095, teaming with Jeff Barber against Barry Horowitz and the Brooklyn Brawler. It's in Macon, Georgia.
Actually, I think that does sound right because I did have a couple matches up there also later on with Bart Gunn.
Of course.
Yeah. I don't remember I don't think anything happened. Obviously, nothing happened of that. But yeah, I do remember having a match, and that sounds about right.
Okay, cool. Just want to bring it up because I thought it was important to mention your first dark match with the WWF. Because when I see you, in early WCW, and I see how in shape you are and how big you are, I would think Vince McMahon would look at you and be like, yeah, let's get him in, pal. You know what I mean? But I guess
I was hoping so too. But
yeah.
I guess not.
And then another thing I want to bring up, I don't know if it's a sore spot for you or not. Our good friend Mike Moran mentioned it to me a little while ago. 17th of June, 1995. ECW barbed wire hoodies and choke slams at the ECW arena in Philly. How did this opportunity come about? What were you promised? And what happened on the show? Was that what you were told was going to happen? You take 5 choke slams from 911 and Paul Heyman essentially takes that opportunity to rip into WCW. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, so his plan, I guess, was to kill off Jungle Jim by doing that. I don't think the excessive choke slams were planned going out. I knew I was going to get choke slammed. And I don't know, maybe one or twice. But yes, he did it excessively, which whatever. He's trying to kill off a character because according to him, he was going to make a new character, which is cool.
Okay.
And it's kind of fuzzy. It may, had I stuck around, maybe, but I was starting to get bored with. I'm assuming that I would have maybe gotten to it to do some interviews that night, but they were dragging on so long, and I think that was part of the point up there. That after the matches, they all did the interviews. And I was just a nobody that was getting a shot. So my interviews would have been at the very end after everybody else was done. And I think I just got tired of fucking waiting and said, fuck this, and left. Right. So I don't know, had I stayed there and waited to do my interview or hear what he had planned. It almost sounded like he had something. Now, did Scott Steiner was he was in ECW too? When did he get his Big Papa Pump gimmick?
He was Big Papa Pump in, I believe, 1990.
Was that something he started in ECW?
No, I don't believe so. Big Papa Pump
okay.
Later on WCW, yeah.
So if I remember correctly, it sounded like he was talking something like that. Again, I don't know if that was Scott Steiner was already doing that, or if Paul Heyman was thinking of something similar to that, if that was before that or what even. But that's in my mind, thinking back, that's what I think he wanted to do, is kill off Jungle Jim, because it was WCW gimmick, and they were at feud with WCW, so his idea was to kill that off and create a new character.
Okay.
And had I stayed there long enough to maybe do it, but I mean, hell, it was getting late in the night, and I was like, fuck, how many, so it probably might have been just my, what's the word I'm looking for? My, being tired and restless of just waiting around and feeling like a mark, waiting for everybody to finish their interviews in order to get to mine, if I was even going to get an interview at that moment. I'm not sure. So it was probably had a lot to do with me just being like, fuck this, I'm not waiting around anymore.
I know sometimes when they did those promos after the shows, they could be there until 7 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, ridiculous. So it was probably my impatientness. I didn't want to wait and stick around. Who knows?
I watched the match 911 back earlier, and I noticed after the third choke slam, Paul got down. I don't know if he said something to you, but I feel like maybe he was just in character and he was pretending to talk trash to you. But did he say anything to you, like outside of being in character, and say, "Hey, man, you got to take 2 more of these"? Or do you remember that at all? Because it looked like he said.
No, I don't remember that.
Don't remember? Okay, that's fine. Okay, I want to bring it to Puerto Rico before I get to some more All Japan talk. I want to know about your experience with the World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico. You debuted there as November 24th, 95 in, I guess it's pronounced Ponche, Puerto Rico, or...
Say the date one more time.
November 24th, 1995.
It actually would have, I remember I went there in 95, right before Halloween. So that would have been my whatever... Maybe it didn't air till, but that seems like a whole month later. But yes, so it was 95 was the correct year, and I flew down there in October because I remember it was before Halloween. Right. And I stayed until the end of the year. So you're saying what town? Ponce?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that would be Ponce.
You team with Carlos Colon and lost to Mabel and Blackjack Bennett, who I believe is Tough Tom from Disorderly Conduct.
Okay, I know. I would know Tom through Mike.
Yes. So I just wanted to bring that up, but I wanted to fast forward it to April 20th, 1996. So this is, how many months is that? 6-7 months. You win the World Wrestling Council television title from Ricky Santana in, gosh, I'm so bad at pronouncing towns, but Caguas, Puerto Rico. It must have been, at least, for you, this is the first time in your wrestling career that you've won a singles championship. I know a lot of people feel like a wrestling belt is more of a prop, but it's also the office saying, hey, look, we believe in you and we think that you're good. This must have been a thrill for you in some way to be given this opportunity, and to wrestle a legend like Ricky Santana must have been great too.
Yeah, well, Ricky was awesome. He was another great hand. If I remember correctly, it was that big bowl shaped thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. Actually, it was just a pain in the ass to carry that thing around. I mean, you're right. I would have rather had a belt, because carrying that shit around was like just another thing that you had to drag along with you. But yeah, hey, it's good to have the office, I guess, invested in you. And I remember doing a big angle, I believe, on that before I left in '95, because I was going back to Japan before I was coming back to Puerto Rico. And so I remember closing out the '95 season there in Puerto Rico, that they had a gimmick with me and Bronco wrestling, where Bronco would beat me up and I was spitting up blood, and they stretchered me off, and then I didn't come back until, let's see, because I remember I got married in February and of the following year. That would have been '96, and February, March. So I thought I came back in March. It could have been April, maybe. But I know when I got back to Puerto Rico, I guess they had been playing angles of the match that I had with Bronco, stretcher me out, taking me in the ambulance to the hospital. And back then, I think angles worked better because they didn't have internet so much. I think the internet came around right in '95, dial-up.
Yep.
So it didn't have all of the shit, all of the kayfabe sheets and stuff. And so it was definitely easier to keep things hushed up. And so when I did finally come back to Puerto Rico, I didn't realize before, but when I came back, I'm like, holy shit, they must have been running the hell out of this angle, because everywhere, I mean, wrestling is so popular on that island that I think it got more ratings than like different news channels. But I remember when I came back to Puerto Rico, it didn't matter where I was on the island, pumping gas or going to the grocery store, you were recognized everywhere. and everybody was just like, Jungle, go get him. Like they had seen over and over and over for the last, 3-4 months, the angle with Bronco. And so I think that was probably my first realization there of, damn, how powerful wrestling was on the island and how over everything was.
Absolutely. It's crazy over there because it seemed like even after, the cat was out of the bag because of Vince McMahon, over there, they still kind of treat it like it's real. They feel like it's real and they react like it's real. They're wrestling crazy over there.
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming they're intelligent people. But man, when they get into their wrestling, I mean, it's freaking crazy how they really take that shit to heart, man. It was, yeah.
I wanted to bring this one up because obviously, our good friend Mike Moran, he got us in contact with one another. So I thought I should bring this up. 19th of October, 1996, WWC Tag Team Championships are on the line. The Texas Hangmen defeat yourself and Ricky Santana in Humacao, Puerto Rico. I just want to ask you, was this when you became friends with Mike and your friendship stayed to this day? What is your friendship with Mike?
Yeah, sure. I don't know, exactly when it started down in Puerto Rico, but I think we're pretty much friends with all the American guys for sure, right? Because you feel a little bit more connected with them because you're the foreigner, you're the visitor there in Puerto Rico, and so you just kind of form a camaraderie with the boys that were from back home. And plus, he was living here in Florida too, so we had a little bit more, I guess, of a reason to be friends. And we came back and. That's what I can remember back from the Puerto Rico days. but yeah, we've been friends, I guess, ever since back to those days. And those are Puerto Rico days. I didn't like it that much when I was down there. I guess. I mean, I did like it, but looking back now, I have like awesome, fond memories.
Yeah.
Of man, my throat's tickling me. I have awesome, fond memories of living down there. Heck, I mean, and when I first went down there in 95 October, I only got a one-way ticket. Actually, he sent me a one-way ticket down there, and I was thinking to myself, I knew he wanted me to stay longer, I guess, but I was hoping just to go down there, wrestle, and go back home, and maybe fly back and forth. I don't know, but Puerto Rico wasn't that kind of a territory. They wanted you to stay there, which was good. That's when you learned a lot. So I really wasn't keen on staying there. So I stayed from October to the end of the year, December sometime, middle of December of 95. And then I got married, and then I moved back to Puerto Rico. I actually lived in Puerto Rico, where that was my actual address. I got rid of my place in Florida, and actually I was living in Atlanta at the time. And so I moved to Puerto Rico. That was my actual address for a little over a year, until All Japan said that they were bringing me over full time. And that would have been in, like, I don't know, summer-ish of 97, which I was like glad at that point. I was like, yes. So, because then I could go back to Florida, and of course made more money. But looking back on it, it's like, damn, man, we kind of had to fight for our money. And I feel bad for a lot of the guys in Puerto Rico. A lot of them, I don't think, got paid, or eventually they probably didn't get paid, a lot of them, or they were behind, like the guys that lived there, me included, and they would be behind on our pay. But they eventually would pay us up. And I'm fortunate that they actually never stiffed me. They were late on paying me sometimes, a lot, but I actually got all my money and everything that was promised to me. So by that regards, I have nothing bad to say about Puerto Rico. And if you think about it, at the time, the amount of work that we did, even though we got paid late, we made a pretty decent money for back in that day. And then looking back on it, it was just fond memories, good times.
Awesome, bro. That's great. Love hearing about people's experiences in Puerto Rico. I've had a few guys on the show now that spent a bit of time there, like, Bull Payne and Tough Tom and Mean Mike and Frankie Lancaster. I wanted to bring this up. Obviously, you do go back to All Japan. You have a group called the Triangle of Power with Dr. Death and Gary Albright. You also Wolf Hawkfield winning the tag titles with Johnny Smith. Fantastic run. Please tell me a little bit about both of these things here.
Give me 1 second, because my throat is like really.
Bro, that's fine, bro. You need some water. You need a. Not a problem at all.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
You form the Triangle of Power with Dr. Death and Gary Albright, and also teaming with Johnny Smith to become the All Asia Tag Team Champions. Tell me a little bit about Doc and Gary.
Hell, Doc was like a main staple there, along with Stan Hansen and of course Johnny Smith. Those were fun times. I can remember traveling on the bus. I mean, hell, the bus was always stocked with beer for us.
Oh, great.
And so after the match, That's the first thing you would do, go out to the bus and grab a beer, or at least when we were done with the show, we would grab a beer and head to the next town. And we had video on the bus, so we were watching movies. I mean, that was a cake job. The only thing we had to do is be down in the front lobby when they told us to be there, and that was it. Everything else they totally did for us. They took us from hotel to hotel to town, handed us our keys, and I really do look back on that and they're very fond memories. And that also back in the day when we would go to Japan, we were not almost right immediately, but we were definitely counting down the days to be done and go back home because we're on the road, right? And so, we miss our home, families, and stuff like that. But back then it was much harder to do than I imagine it would be now with internet. And again, they had internet back then, but it was dial-up.
Yeah.
It was just emails basically. Now with, Zoom, but before that, Skype or any of the video conferencing, I mean, you wouldn't feel as isolated from your family and stuff because you could just do a video conference, or just how cool would that be to be able to hey, this is what I'm doing tonight. I'm walking into this little yakitori place. Like I wish, like I miss the food there. I used to get tired of the food there, and oh God, I can't wait to get back home. But now I totally miss some of the. I love yakiniku was probably my favorite meal there. Are you familiar with yakiniku or Korean barbecue? Do you know what Korean barbecue is?
I know what that is, yeah, but I haven't actually had the chance to try it before.
And they, I haven't really seen any place over here in the States that have actually duplicated that very much. There is one place around here. It's a ramen shop that is very, very close to, it's a small place, doesn't hold very many people. That's probably the only place that I've seen that's very authentic. And if I didn't know any better, I might think I was back in Japan somewhere. But just all those little yakitori, shabu shabu, I love all that shit, and I miss that. And I'd love to go back there again someday, just to just to go eat all my different favorite places. But yeah, it was a very fond time, Puerto Rico and Japan now. I think that's all you have to look back on is memories, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's an exciting part of your career to bring up. You form a team with Mike Barton, aka Bart Gunn, obviously very infamous in the wrestling industry. Everyone knows who Bart Gunn is, after some short weeks at one point in the WWF. But you join Masahiro Chono's Team 2000. How was Mike as your partner? I kind of feel like this team really clicked, and I was surprised that you guys never actually won the tag team championship there. But how was Mike as your partner?
He was awesome. And we, it was funny how that whole thing worked out, because I think Mr. Baba was already gone, I think, at that time. He had already died. And Mrs. Baba, they were kind of working together a little bit, right? Because they lent us out, me and Mike Bart, to go to New Japan for a tour.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember, there might have been some office shit going on with All Japan. Obviously there was, because a lot of them left and formed Noah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we might have been catching some wind of that. And then they used me and Mike over there in New Japan. And we were like, hey, maybe this is a time for us to jump over to New Japan and so I believe, I don't know, I'm sure they talked it out with All Japan, but that we decided to jump over to New Japan. And I remember like there was one shot we were going to do. I can't remember if we were working on the All Japan side tour, and then we were going to do something, a one shot deal just for one day in New Japan. And then the next tour we were coming back and working for New Japan. And I remember it's like, it was only like, I don't know, in 2 or 3 days was this one shot, but because it was with a different company, they had to fly us all the way home for like 1 or 2 days and to fly us all the way back. They wouldn't allow us to stay in Tokyo for like, it would have been so much easier to put us up in a hotel for 2 days and just let us relax and rest and then do the show and then go home. But they had to fly us home, then they had to fly us back and fly us. So, but I did like the New Japan was a little bit different than All Japan. Not necessarily better, just different. But it seemed like their production was a lot bigger and more WWF like, as far as like entrance, almost like the same, not a Titantron necessarily, but just they had a larger entrance that would look good on TV because of the pyro and so just it seemed like they were much flashier and more modern than All Japan. All Japan was very much more old school, just a curtain to come out. So we definitely enjoyed that. And then I hurt my knee over there. Actually, this was after we had already jumped ships and were with New Japan. And we were getting a great push. And who knows what would have happened, but I tore my knee over there right in the ring and had to go home and get that repaired. And then I think I came back maybe 8 months later after it was fixed and healed. But yeah.
Right. Another interesting tidbit that I found in my research, the 18th of June, 2001, you defeat Buck Quartermain in a dark match before the tapings of WWF Jacked at the Ice Palace in Tampa, Florida. And then obviously, as you mentioned earlier, December 15 and 16, yourself and Mike team up in a couple more dark matches before Sunday Night Heat and Velocity. Firstly, with a win over Brent Dale and Carlito Colon, and the next day against the Shane Twins. They're giving the tag team a look here. Why doesn't it happen?
I don't know. You got to ask Vince about that.
Fuck.
Yeah, I wish I knew. Yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah, because two big guys. I mean, I know it's 2001. I know the roster's inflated now with WCW and ECW talent with their invasion angle and all that. But man, I don't know. I watched a match between you guys and Chronic earlier, and I'm like, these are two big, like Chronic are big guys. Brian Adams and Brian Clark, big guys, and you two are just as big as them. So I'm thinking this is something that Vince would like. It makes sense. But again, I don't understand why Jim Steele has never had a WWF contract at this point, especially after.
Yeah, well, and now it's too late. Now Jim Steele's all hurting, and I definitely can't get it. I have not taken a bump in 20 years. I don't even know if it's good. Shit.
Not to fast forward too much, but again, November 3rd, 2001, a big moment in your career as far as I'm concerned. You defeat Invader #1 in Carolina Puerto Rico to become the World Wrestling Council Puerto Rican heavyweight champion. It's only for 21 days, but my God, come on, you've won the heavyweight championship after all this time. And I just think it's important for me to bring that up. How did you feel to be given at least that spot for 21 days?
Yeah, I don't know. I never had an ego about having a belt. I don't think I did. Maybe I did back then. I guess to us, it was just like, or to me at least, it was just like, it's part of your storyline. And I just never thought of it that way. Maybe I should have. Maybe
that's fine. It's okay to not feel like, it's okay. I just like to say that and build it up for you to be like, no, it wasn't really that. Look, I have to bring this up before I move forward because I believe this to be true, but I need to know from you personally. You spend a lot of time in Puerto Rico. How hot are the women in Puerto Rico?
Oh, dude, you know what? They're freaking hot everywhere. Seriously, in my opinion, because people will say, "Oh man, the women in Florida are hot," or "The women in California are hot." Dude, they're hot everywhere. I mean, I'm an equal opportunist. If they're good looking, beautiful, I mean, I think everybody's beautiful.
Well, that's nice to hear, but I just feel like, man, I would love to be in Jim Steele's shoes, when you would look like Tarzan and you were jacked to the gills. I just want to just look like you for one day, just to see how women look at me. Because look, I mean, I'm an okay looking guy now, but I think I would rather prefer seeing what girls and how women would react to me if I looked like the Tarzan version of Jim Steele.
It had its advantages, for sure. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, and back in the day, I was I was a lot more crazy and confident, and I mean, I can remember just not caring and going right up and talking to women that were maybe with like 3 or 4 other guys. I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna go talk to her. Hey, you know what? A lot of times it would just be like her brother and a bunch of friends. I'm like, yes, sweet, but you might be intimidated because you're like, the hot girls with 3 other guys. I'm sure one of those are her boyfriend, right? Nope. Not all. I mean, I'm sure sometimes it might have been that way, but a lot of times you just had to have the balls to walk up and say, hey, and start a conversation with it, right? Which is half the battle right there. It's half the battle.
Absolutely. I just needed to know that point of view of what it's like to look like that and to be able to approach women, and they'll be just so ecstatic that you've come up and started speaking to them. So anyway, I want to get back to Japan. What's the idea behind Love Machine?
Oh, geez. That's, Japan comes up with some weird, funky names. I don't know their reasoning. Like lacrosse, that was a weird name too. And
well, it's a sport, isn't it?
Well, you would think. Right. Yes, lacrosse is a sport, but not over there. I mean, they might have lacrosse as a sport. I don't know. But the way it was told to me is, and I don't know if the translation was very accurate, but lacrosse was some kind of satellite or
right
mechanism. Not sure. That's all I remember. Lacrosse was some kind of satellite or something or other, and it didn't get a very thorough explanation to me. But yeah, Had nothing to do with lacrosse, the sport. It had something to do with outer space, satellites, something or other. I don't know. But
Fair enough. I just thought that some of these names were
yeah. Oh, and back to
bring up. I mean,
Love Machine Steele. If anything, it was just a funny name. I don't know where that. I guess maybe because I had teamed up with 2 other guys also that had masks on that dressed similar. So I don't know if I think that might have been an old name or character or group of people.
Yeah, there are a few Love Machines. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Were there? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, so I have no idea where that even Love Machine. Like they just have some bizarre. Their sense of humor is, I guess, a little bit different. And
it is. Their sense of humor is a little different. I've noticed that when I've watched them.
It, but yeah, I'm like, all right, sure. You want to bring me back as Love Machine? And that was with All Japan then again, I guess.
Yes, and you teamed with the Great Muda.
What's that?
You teamed with the Great Muda as well for a tournament, I believe, which must have been pretty special.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. Yeah, the whole time was pretty interesting, and I got a couple stories I will share with you when we're all done that are just kind of I don't know, interesting, humorous type stories. But just remind me at the end, and I'll show you those.
Well, would you like those stories to be on the record with our recording here tonight, or after we stop recording?
Oh, I don't care. It's I guess it could be considered embarrassing, but it's interesting, and so I'm sure your viewers might like it. It is whatever. I think before I used to be embarrassed about it or whatever, but now it's actually kind of funny, whatever.
Okay, I'll bring that up when we get to the end. But another match I thought was interesting was damn, I didn't write down the date, but it's Giant Baba's 6th anniversary memorial event at the Nippon Budokan in Tokyo, Japan. George Hines, Jim Steele, and Mike Barton defeat Chuck Palumbo, Jamal, and Rodney Mack. I thought it was interesting to bring it up because I kind of feel like you and Chuck Palumbo look very similar at different points in your career. And in fact, I talked to Mike Moran about this, and we kind of agreed you looked like a mix between Chuck Palumbo and Sean Waltman, the 1-2-3 Kid.
I used to get that a lot too.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, or at least we did a long time ago, my face and Sean Waltman's face looked very similar. I could even see the resemblance in the face, especially probably when he was maybe more like the 1-2-3 Kid, maybe.
Yeah,
because he was clean shaven at that time, and that's, I don't know. I saw a resemblance there for sure.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting to bring it up because, you know, when Chuck Palumbo first started wrestling in WCW, he was doing the kind of Tarzan-looking character.
Right.
So
No, that wasn't him. That was another guy, Renegade. What was his Chuck Palumbo's gimmick?
Well, on his Wikipedia, it says that for a very short period of time, his name was Jungle Jim.
Oh.
But it got changed to just his regular name, Chuck Palumbo, I think after like one match. But I just thought it was interesting that, you know, you two kind of look similar and you both kind of did the Tarzan-ish thing and you ended up being in the same match at that anniversary show. But anyway, I wanted to bring it forward even more to the 26th of April, 2008 in Bayamon, Puerto Rico at the Pepin, I can't pronounce these words sometimes. Cicestro Arena or Cicestro Arena. You wrestle Orlando Colon as Jungle Jim Steele, and that appears to be your final match. Is that true?
What's the date on that?
The 26th of April, 2008.
You know what? Somebody else, I think, asked me about that recently in another podcast I did. And the last time the date's incorrect. Because the last time I wrestled at either place, Puerto Rico or Japan, was in 2005. I did, I believe in Japan, it might have been Mr. Baba's, one of his anniversary tour things. And it was in 2005. And then sometime in the same year, it was also in 2005 in Puerto Rico. I want to say June or July. What did you say? It was June?
April, it said.
Maybe April, but maybe they just mixed the date up because
maybe the year's wrong.
It was 2005.
Okay.
And maybe it was with Orlando. Maybe they just mixed up that 8 to a 5. But
right.
Yeah, it was 2005 was my last time in the ring.
Right. So that brings me to this question. What made you feel like, okay, I've gone at it now for a good period of time, you know, geez, when did you start? I mean, 92, you know, this is several years now. What made you say to yourself, you know what, it's time to get out of the business and do something else?
I guess a couple things. Well, one thing we talked about earlier is that, you know, you only have a job when somebody wants to employ you, right? Doesn't matter what it is. If you're a little kid in high school still trying to get a job at McDonald's or something, if they don't call you back in for an interview, they don't call you in to work, you're not working for them, you know, or whatever. So, yeah, maybe could I have tried to continue wrestling? Maybe, but without a main company like All Japan or New Japan, and I guess WCW was no more. Vince, I don't even know what other companies they had. TNA, if TNA was around at that time. So unless you're working at one of those companies where you can actually make a living, the only other choice is doing independent circuits. And how, you know, how often and how many times you're going to get booked, and are you going to be able to make money doing that, getting a booking here and there? How far are you going to drive? How are you going to rely? I mean, independent shows, they'll book you and then something happens and it falls apart, and they, you know, so I'm like, oh crap, I gotta get a real job, I guess, because All Japan or New Japan wasn't calling me back. I wasn't getting a call from Vince. So I needed, you know, you got to make some money. You got to live. I didn't make enough money to just live off of my savings. So I got a job working at a publishing company, and it was difficult to make that transition from wrestling lifestyle to a regular 9-to-5 type of job where you had to, you know, be there all day, and it's like, so yeah, I did that. And then in 2008, the end of 2008, if you remember, how old are you?
I'm 34.
34. So you might be able to remember, I mean, not that 2008 was that far long ago, but when the economic, well, and in Australia might have been different too, I don't know, but in the States, in the 2008, the economic crisis.
Yeah, I remember I was actually holidaying in Paris at the time, and the only channel I could get that spoke English was CNN, and it happened whilst I was there. So yeah, I remember this.
And so, you know, businesses and companies were closing down because they just couldn't stay afloat. Houses were going into foreclosure and shit. The company that I had worked for, which was a startup company, they had been around for maybe 4 years now at the time. and they went out of business. So I'm like, crap, what do I do now?
Oh, shit.
I'm going to either be like digging ditches or something for the rest of my life, or I better go back to school. So I went back to school, and I didn't actually know what I wanted to do yet. But I had some friends in the health field, and I was dating a nurse maybe the year prior to that. And I remember she always had a job, always had money and nice things. And I'm like, And I didn't even think about that then, but maybe a year later, after I was already in school and I was going towards just kind of the science arena. And then I like, oh, you know what? I remember and then I just kind of went towards that degree, and that's where I am now.
Yeah, well, it's smart. I mean, there's always going to be sick people. There's always going to be
Unfortunately,
someone to help out, in that field. So, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously that's a good route to go down, and props to you for being in that field. And obviously, with the way that the world is right now, your life must be incredibly hectic with that. So,
Pandemic going on.
yeah.
I heard you guys are really locked down in Australia, huh? Or you were. I don't know how it is now, but I heard you guys really had a lockdown.
We had a solid lockdown for a good 2 months when it first happened.
Yeah.
Couldn't do anything other than go to the supermarket, the pharmacy, or a liquor store, which is where I work at for my part-time job. So just like the essentials. But in my city, Perth, Western Australia, it's the most isolated city in the world. We've been very lucky where for most part for the last year, we haven't even had to wear masks. Everything has been wide open. Only just the other day, we had all of our restrictions ended. But then like a few days ago, somebody flew over from over East, had caught it from over East, and now we're on lockdown again. So and only for 3 days or 3 or 4 days. But we'll probably have to wear the masks for a few weeks after that before we get back to our normal. Being the most isolated city in the world has its advantages for once. So
I think all the lockdown bullshit is crazy, though. I think it's been proven that they don't really work that well, because places that did not lock down did better than the places that locked down. I don't know. I guess that's debatable, but.
Yeah. But anyway, you mentioned earlier some stories that you wanted to bring up right at the end. Here's your chance. You felt like they might have been embarrassing stories, but now you find them to be humorous. Please indulge me, Jim.
Okay, so, I've never been knocked out in any other instance, but in wrestling, I had been knocked out. Well, one time I was, I guess I was knocked unconscious, or in Puerto Rico, I remember I was wrestling D'Lo Brown, and I caught him off the top with a cross body, and I didn't miss a beat in the match, but I don't even know how I would have completed everything because I don't remember any of it. And after the match, I walked back to the dressing room, and I was asking everybody there, "Did you see my match?" "Oh yeah, amigo, it was good." Like, it was good, but I mean, how did it look? Everything? "Oh no, everything looked good." I'm like, and I would ask the next person and the next person. If you've ever been knocked out or had like a concussion, you kind of lose your memory a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I would ask this person, the same question. And I would get it back around to the first guy I asked, and I would ask him because I didn't remember asking him just a moment ago. And he's like, "Amigo, you just asked me. I said everything looked good." "Oh, okay." And I did this, and I'm like, "What the hell?" After that cross body off the top, must have just hit my head right where it just gave me a concussion, and I had just a little bit of memory loss. And I don't know how I finished the match, but apparently I did. and did not miss a beat, I guess. But I have no recollection of it at all. So that was the first time.
Okay.
Then the second time and only other time that I can remember ever having that happen was in Japan. And it is the last day of our tour. Oh, and by the way, too, just something else different I just wanted to throw in there. In Japan, my favorite, like we worked in some big arenas there. The Tokyo Dome, which is like huge. I don't know how many people that place holds. I think it holds more than we were wrestling in front of, but we had a big show there where probably, I don't know, 40, 50,000 people maybe. Right. But that's not, that was definitely not my favorite place. My two favorite places were the Budokan and which is a pretty long, I think that's like 16, 17, 18,000 people. But the way the stands are, they go up like this, and Japanese fans show their appreciation much different than like American fans. When they watch it, they're quiet and they're like really watching. And then when something exciting happens, well, you've seen, because you've watched they start stomping their feet, right? I mean, and when you got 18,000 people inside this Budokan Dome stomping their feet, dude, you could be blown up sky high and you just get adrenaline and goosebumps, and it's like, fuck yeah. So that's like, Budokan was my favorite place to wrestle. I just wanted to throw that in there. And then also another place was Korakuen Hall or Korakuen Hall. I might be mispronouncing it. Yeah. But that is also another small, Budokan is not small, but the Korakuen Hall it holds maybe 2,000 people, compared to, but they are right on top of you. You can literally almost just reach out and touch them, and you get the same kind of reaction there. That place is those two are my two favorite places wrestling. But this particular match was at Korakuen Hall. Actually, it was the last show of our tour. And it actually happened to be like a day show where we were going to leave out later that day. A lot of times we would finish wrestling at the Budokan, we go to the airport hotel and leave the very next day. But this was an early show. We got to leave later that day. So I'm in the ring. It's me and George Hines, Eagle. This is when I had the mask on. So Lacrosse and Eagle versus Rob Van Dam and Sabu.
Oh, bro.
And
oh my God.
Last match. And we're going over, me and George. Actually, Eagle was going to go over on one of them. I forget which one. But I'm in the ring. We're doing a little spot where they threw me into the turnbuckle. I went into the turnbuckle face first, like just chest first, staggered back. They both give me a spin kick. And then I think the move was maybe Sabu was coming off with the leg or something. Rob was coming off with a splash.
Yeah, that'll be it. Yeah.
1-2 kick out, and then I was going to tag out, right? So it must have been that double when they threw me into the turnbuckle and I came back. They gave me that double kick, like they would jump onto the rope, both of them, and do a double kick to me. One of those kicks knocked me out. I don't know. Probably Rob Van Dam. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Sometimes on those. So kicked me. I was out in the middle of the ring and they did their splash, but usually when you're taking a splash, the very last second, you just tighten up a little bit And I think Rob could tell that I didn't tighten up and I was just laying there and I was not going to kick out. And so I think he did like a self kick out. 1, 2, and he kicked himself off. Now this is all being told to me by Rob, Sabu, George, and probably everybody else that I asked in the back that, you know, because we all watched each other's matches. So this is all from secondhand stories told to me that I gathered after the match, right? So after the 1, 2, and Rob kicks himself out because he knows that we're supposed to go over, right? So now, how do you get a knocked out lacrosse that's in the center of the ring back to tag out? So I think my partner they could tell something was going on. George comes in and like starts grabs my arm to bring me back over to the corner. And of course, Rob and Sabu can't just let him do that. They got to make it look like a fight or something, right? So they're coming in and kicking each other. And meanwhile, George must have got me over to the corner in time, or somehow. He went out on the apron, reached up and touched my hand, you know, tagged himself in. And I think also during that Sabu and Rob must have been kicking me to get me out of the ring or something. And so I basically just thud. I roll off the ring apron down to the mats below, thud, because I'm still out.
Yeah.
And apparently, so I have my mask on, right, as lacrosse. Apparently, I'm snoring in the ring because I'm knocked out, right? And when I sleep, I have sleep apnea. And so I was knocked out. I was like snoring in the ring. And so when I fell off and hit the mat, you know, they're finishing up the match. But I'm on the mat now coming to. And I just got knocked out. So I have no idea where I am. So I'm trying to pull my mask off. You know, the match is going on. I'm outside on the apron trying to pull my mask off because I have no fucking idea where I'm at, what's going on. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is this thing on my head? So I go to pull off my mask and I think I got it about halfway. And some of the young boys, the Japanese guys that are always out ringside, kind of taking care of everything, I think they threw like a towel over my head because, of course, the reporters were like trying to take shots. Oh, shit, he's taking off his mask. What's going on? And so George ends up winning. He goes over and he comes back out and he helps me and we walk through the back. And this was when Mr. Baba was still alive. George said that I almost ran into and knocked Mr. Baba down because I wasn't still with it. I was like just trying to come around and I'm like wobbly still. And so I guess I knocked into Mr. Baba, almost knocked him over or something. Anyway, get back into the dressing room. And, you know, I'm asking everybody, like I did in Puerto Rico that time. I'm asking everybody, dude, what happened out there? And, you know, they're telling me, and then I'm asking somebody else and make my way back to the original person I asked. And I'm like, you know, just asking the same question over and over because we're trying to figure out what's going on. And so finally I'm like, okay, I accept the story. And, you know, we're all getting ready. Everybody's taking a shower to get ready and dressed and get on the bus and be taken to the airport because we're going to be flying home that day. And I'm like, all right. So then I start to get undressed and there's a fucking load of shit in my pants. And I'm like, what? Because Rob gave me that splash. I never protected myself, right? So pulling my drawers, my trunks down, and they're like, "Oh man, that's what that is." Because out in the ring, they said they smelled shit, and you're like, "What the fuck?" You know, they were saying that amongst themselves. They're like, "What the fuck is that smell, man?" I fucking shit my pants out in the ring, and I didn't even know it. And I'm getting back, and I'm like taking. And I look down and there's a fucking, I'm like, what the fuck? That's my fucking shit the pants story. Wrestling. Got knocked out, shit my pants. Fucking tried to take my mask off in the middle of this, and I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, now I tell that story. I used to tell it with a little bit more theatrics, but it's easier when I got a little bit of a group around, and especially if we're out drinking somewhere. But it usually gets a pretty good pop. But it is what it is, as Dr. Death would say, it ain't ballet.
Oh, bro, my cheeks hurt. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Safe to say you were the shits that night. Fantastic, bro.
I was the drizzling shits that night for
sure. Thank you so much for sharing that, bro. That was so fucking funny. Now, Jim, it comes to our final segment of the evening. It's called 5-Second Frenzy. You got 5 seconds to answer each question. Even if you break for 5 seconds, it's okay. Most wrestlers need more than 5 seconds to answer a question. But here we go. Jim, you weren't a wrestling fan growing up, but after years in the business and looking back at tapes during your time in the business, who's your favorite wrestler?
Oh, hell, Jungle Jim Steele.
Excellent. Favorite opponent you ever had over the years?
Oh, shit. Favorite opponent. Oh, man. Fuck. Yeah, see, that takes a little over the years. Favorite opponent. Kobashi was a hell of a wrestler. I mean, I loved working him. I don't know. I'm going to stick with that. I can't really think of anything
else. Okay. We'll stick with Kobashi. Yeah. There's not too much pressure here. I know this is a tough one as well because, you wrestled for a few years there. Favorite match you've ever had? Is there one match in particular when you look back, you're like, yep, that one was fantastic?
Favorite match ever?
Yeah.
Out of anywhere?
Out of anywhere.
Oh. I'd say maybe a lot of me and Johnny Smith's tag team match when we had that run. I don't know how long the run was, but we got a lot of press coverage and covers of the magazines over there, which in Japan, you get a cover magazine over there. It's a pretty big deal. We had some center spreads and stuff. That was a fun run. Of course, with Bart Gunn too.
Yeah.
Ray Gonzalez in Puerto Rico. We had a lot of good matches down there too.
I believe the tag title reign with Johnny was 270 days. I could be wrong, but
just about less than a year.
Yeah. Okay. Look, it might get easier from here on because it's no longer about wrestling. It's wrestling out of there. We've talked about it enough. Favorite book?
Favorite book? Gosh, I haven't read many books lately, but I do remember. I remember reading a book, and this was a while ago, and I believe it's called "I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell." That was a pretty interesting. That was a pretty interesting.
Tucker Max, isn't it?
You know that one? Okay, yeah, that was
I've got it on my bookshelf.
Oh, have you read it yet?
I haven't, no, but I've had it for a little while.
It was very interesting. His sexploits and all the different shit he did. I read that book like probably, I don't know, in a couple days or a day. It was just like, what the hell? I can't believe this shit happened. Crazy stuff.
I remember, geez, I must have been like 14, 15 years old. I used to like follow his online blog that he had before he brought the book out. So I know a lot of stories of his, and I wonder what he's up to these days.
If you follow his blog, then you probably know, I'm sure, some of the stories that are in that book. But yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Some fucked up stuff, that's for sure. Favorite TV show, Jim?
Favorite TV show? You know, I'm a news buff now, actually. All right, this is Tucker Carlson. I like that show. Tucker Carlson.
Okay. Cool. Favorite film?
Anything with Arnold in it, I used to like. I just saw a movie with him. Actually, it's an older movie, and I somehow overlooked that one. I just watched it the other day. It was pretty cool. Sabotage. It was from 2014.
Right.
And I just watched one last night that was pretty good called Nobody.
Oh yeah, with
have you seen that?
Yes, it's fantastic, bro. That's
amazing. You saw it. Okay, so my brother turned me on to that. He's like, "Oh, dude, I'm 20 minutes in. This is crazy." And so it has the guy. I can't remember his actual name, but it's the guy.
He's Saul Goodman from
Better Call Saul.
Yeah. I fucking loved that. James.
Yeah,
sorry, no, that's.
I want to say Bob something. Bob
Odenkirk.
That's it. Yep. So I just watched that last night. Actually, that was really good.
It was amazing, that film. Okay, moving on. Favorite musical artist or band?
I like Santana. Carlos Santana. I remember, and that brings me up to Puerto Rico, because there was a time in Puerto Rico when the water, for whatever reason, was shut off. There was some kind of break in the line, one of the main pipelines that supplied like the Santurce area, the Isla Verde area, and actually the whole area. And the water was ended up being out for I don't know, almost 14 days. I'm like, what?
Oh my gosh.
You realize that water is the most important resource that we have, because you can't flush the toilets, you can't wash anything. You know, you could cook some food maybe if you have some bottled water, but then you can't wash the dishes afterwards. And this was like in a nice time of Puerto Rico. It wasn't like a hurricane season. This must have been, I don't know, January, February, March, April, something like that, where it's like the weather was perfect and beautiful. And for whatever reason, the water was off. And every day it would be, don't worry, amigo, mañana. It used to drive me crazy down there. And I was so irritated. I remember going down to the beach, and one of the guys down there, his name was Mono. I guess Mono means monkey, but he was one of the dudes that rented out the chairs and stuff. And he was listening to some Carlos Santana. And I'm like, what are you listening to, man? And let me hear. And the music was so super chill. It kind of calmed me for a moment.
All right.
While I was just furious with this freaking no water shit. And so I was like, ever since then, I like Carlos Santana. But I like a lot. Five Finger Death Punch. I love that group too. Are you familiar with Five Finger Death Punch?
I am. Yes, I'm aware of them. Yeah. Very nice. We've got 5 to go. Here for 5 Second Frenzy. Favorite food?
Italian, steak. I like Japanese. I like it all. I like it all.
Excellent. Favorite place to eat on the road?
Favorite place to eat on the road? I don't know, Outback. No,
Very nice.
actually, Bonefish is my favorite. Now, you guys have Outback and Bonefish over there?
We do have Outback.
You do have Outback over there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you have Bonefish too?
Never heard of it, no.
I think it's actually owned by the same group, the same company, but that's probably my Outback is everywhere though. That's a good one to go by.
Good call. Third last one, favorite alcoholic beverage.
Oh shit. Okay, so beer is my go-to usually, and my favorite beer is a local beer from the Tampa Bay Brewing Company called Reef Donkey.
Right.
It's like it's an APA, American Pale Ale. So
right.
it's like got an amberish color to it, but that's my favorite beer. I like Southern Comfort too. I like it. I like a good variety of everything, but my go-to is beer, and it's usually Reef Donkey.
Very nice, very nice. Second last one, Jim. The naughtiest one of 5 Second Frenzy.
Oh shit!
Your favorite female body part. You're gonna check out a woman. What will your eyes go to first?
Again, I'm an equal opportunist. I like all of them. I like all of them put together well and nicely. But if I had to limit it to one, it would be like the ass and legs. No tits. All right, they're fun to have, but you know, all size are nice. But the legs and ass, that's what I like the best.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I love that answer. And the last one, Jim, your favorite curse word.
Fuck.
It's usually the number one answer on the show. If this were family food, that would be the number one answer. Fuck. So Jungle Jim Steele.
There's a comedian, I think that. Have you seen that? Where it's either fuck or shit. But where he goes through it, how he describes how the word is an adjective, is a noun, is an adverb, and he goes through the whole thing. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, you can use in every instance in life. It's perfect. Yeah. You stub your toe on the table, you go fuck. You see a nice ass and pair of legs, you go fuck. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jungle Jim Steele, I just want to thank you so much for your time on the show here today. I really wanted to get the ultimate Jungle Jim Steele interview, and I feel like I accomplished that. And what I want to say is, you know, you should be so proud of what you accomplished in the wrestling business. Yes, you were green in WCW, but you got out of that and you went to All Japan basically for 10 years, and you also made a hell of a name for yourself in Puerto Rico. And what you're doing today, also, you should be so proud of. You know, you're helping people every single day. So I just want you to know that I appreciate you, and you should be proud of everything that you've accomplished in your life, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Another couple of fun facts which I just thought of just now as you were saying this. You know, I was in a few movies as well. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
No, I wasn't aware.
Okay, so one movie, actually Rob Van Dam turned me on to this, was a while ago up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and the movie was called Super Fighters. Super Fights or Super Fighters.
Right.
Just a B-rated version. Is like a Karate Kid type of movie,
okay.
But you can actually find that, I believe, on YouTube. But it came out directly just to cable.
Right.
And then we did. Me and Bart did one in Korea that was about Ricky Dozan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Mike and I played. Back in the day when I guess Ricky Dozan brought wrestling to Japan. I'm trying to think. Oh, the Sharp Brothers. Me and Mike played the Sharp Brothers.
Okay.
And then there was just a couple. Those two are the ones that I had kind of starring role, I guess. I mean, even though it was small, but they were kind of like, you know, starring roles, I guess. And then there's been just a couple other ones that are just like, I can't even remember the name of them, but yeah, that was a fun part too.
Awesome. Well, if that one movie's on YouTube, in the description there, everyone on YouTube. If you're watching, you'll be able to find that link right there. We'll get that out there so that everyone can check it out. But again, Jim, thank you so much. What a fun conversation this has been. Really appreciate your time, sir.
Hey, thank you very much. I know it's got to be pretty late over there. Got to be going into your bedtime, maybe you're past. But hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, everyone out there, for watching the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Californian Fury, with the one and only Jungle Jim Steele, and we will see you all next time. Thank you.